Rowan Atkinson once said the strangest part of being famous is when people half recognize you. They stare like they know you, but cannot remember from where. For him, this confusion was always interesting because his life had been full of moments where he felt unseen, misunderstood, or judged by how he looked or spoke. The shy boy who once stuttered so badly that classmates called him an alien later became one of the world's most beloved comedians. But the path to that transformation was filled with pain, fear, and quiet determination. His fame was not an accident. It was a result of years of struggle, and even today, at 70 years old, Rowan admits that his childhood trauma shaped everything in his life. After decades of silent comedy, he has finally found the courage to talk about the truth behind the man who made the world laugh. Rowan Sebastian Atkinson was born on January 6, 1955, in a small town in County Durham, England. He was the youngest of 4 brothers, but he grew up with a shadow over the family, because his eldest brother Paul had died as a baby before Rowan was born. Even though Rowan never knew him, the loss hung over the family and created a quiet, serious environment at home. His brother Rodney eventually became well known in politics and almost became the leader of the UK Independence Party in 2000. But Rowan's childhood was completely different from anything related to fame, power, or performance. He grew up on a farm surrounded by routine, discipline, and silence. No one could have guessed that this quiet boy would one day become world famous for loud, silly, exaggerated characters. When Rowan was around 5 years old, he began to develop a severe stutter. Words would get stuck in his throat, and he could not control when his voice would break. Speaking became a daily struggle, and school was even worse. He attended Durham Choristers School, where the bullying was cruel and relentless. Ken and John Grove, who worked at the school, remembered Rowan as painfully shy with a rubbery, expressive face and a speech problem that made him stand out. Some classmates mocked his looks and his voice, calling him an alien. They would laugh at him, and Rowan would spend most of his time alone. One of the boys at that school was Tony Blair, who would later become Prime Minister. Blair remembered Rowan as quiet and isolated, a boy who faced hardships most children never experience. A 2007 article in The Independent described the bullying in stark detail, showing how far he had come from those early years. But something incredible happened whenever Rowan stood on a stage. His stutter, which controlled his life offstage, disappeared completely as soon as he performed. While being himself was difficult, becoming someone else gave him freedom. It was as if he stepped into a different body, one where his voice flowed naturally and his confidence grew. That discovery became the foundation of his entire career. Despite the bullying, Rowan was extremely smart. He excelled in school and got top grades in his Science A levels. In 1973, when he was just 18, he earned a place at Newcastle University and studied electrical and electronic engineering. Everyone expected him to become a scientist or an engineer. His life seemed set on a straight path. He graduated at 20 and went on to study for a master's degree at Queen's College, Oxford, following in his father's academic footsteps. His research focused on complicated engineering concepts known as self-tuning control systems. He even began working toward a PhD, but something inside him kept pulling him in another direction. He felt the stage calling him. His teacher Chris Robson once said Rowan did not stand out in class at all. He seemed quiet and unremarkable. But the moment he stepped on a stage, he transformed completely. This transformation became impossible to ignore. While at Oxford, Rowan joined the drama club and became part of a comedy review group called the Etceteras. That is where he met a young writer named Richard Curtis. Their meeting would change British comedy forever. Richard Curtis remembered seeing Rowan perform for the first time during a rehearsal in 1976. He said there was a quiet, awkward-looking man standing in the corner, barely speaking. But when Rowan finally started performing, the entire room froze. He did a sketch about driving and another where he mimed while speaking at the same time. Richard described it as pure genius. Rowan's ability to move, stretch his face, and create entire characters with only his body stunned everyone in the room. In August 1976, Rowan performed with the Oxford Revue at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, his first real national audience. The show was a huge success. Suddenly, Rowan was not just an engineer who acted on the side. He was a performer with a future. Around this time, Rowan finished his master's degree and published his thesis, but acting was taking over his life. His engineering background never left him, and years later, he became one of the earliest celebrities to own hybrid and electric cars. But his heart was no longer in machines. It was in comedy. In 1979, Rowan created a radio show called The Atkinson People for BBC Radio 3. He played a variety of fictional characters, each stranger than the last. Richard Curtis helped write it, and Griff Rhys-Jones produced it. Although it didn't get a big audience, critics saw something special in Rowan's performances. The show proved he could bring characters to life simply with his voice, even though he struggled to speak fluently in his everyday life. But success didn't come easily. Between 1978 and 1979, the BBC rejected him again and again because they didn't understand his style of comedy. His stutter made auditions painful, and he came close to giving up. At one point, he seriously considered returning to engineering. Yet every time he performed as a character, the stutter vanished. He realized performance was his escape, and he refused to give it up. In 1979, Rowan returned to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. He helped build the stage and clear rubble at the new Wireworks Theatre before performing. His show relied almost entirely on silent comedy, like the great Buster Keaton. Some people did not understand it, but others recognized his genius. His face alone could tell a story, and that talent would soon make him world famous. By 1980, he started pushing for TV roles again. He created a pilot called Canned Laughter in 1979, where he played multiple characters, including an early version of Mr. Bean. The show didn't get picked up, but it proved he could command the screen. When he appeared on Wogan in 1980, he demonstrated once again how performing allowed him to hide his stutter. That interview marked a turning point. The world finally began noticing the strange, quiet boy who turned pain into laughter. Everything changed in 1979 when the BBC gave him a role in a new comedy show called Not the 9 O'Clock News. The first episode aired in October 1979 and got terrible reviews. Fewer than 1 million people watched, and critics said it should never be on television. Even Mel Smith, who later became Rowan's friend and co-star, said it was the worst half hour of TV he had ever seen. But the BBC controller loved it and ordered another series. That decision changed British comedy forever. Rowan performed alongside Pamela Stephenson, Mel Smith, and Griff Rhys-Jones, and together they became national stars. But behind the scenes, the show was chaotic. Writers were fired, arguments happened constantly, and the BBC slashed the budget so much that the cast had to joke about it on air. Rowan's perfectionist side began to show. He wanted every sketch to be flawless, and the pressure exhausted him. Then, during the second series in 1980, Rowan performed a sketch that made him a household name. It was called Gerald the Gorilla. Mel Smith played a professor who claimed to have trained a gorilla, and Rowan played the gorilla in a suit. When the professor said he had captured Gerald in the wild, Rowan shouted, "Wild." I was absolutely livid. The line became iconic. Scientists even jokingly used the term flange for a group of baboons because of the sketch. The show won major awards, including a BAFTA and a Silver Rose at the Montrose Festival. Rowan was no longer just a rising star. He was a sensation. He even became part of a surprise music hit called I Like Trucking in 1981. He drove a real truck during the sketch because he actually held a professional truck license. The song became popular, proving Rowan's versatility. But by 1982, the cast was burned out. They were exhausted from non-stop writing, acting, and performing. Rowan especially felt the pressure. His anxiety grew, and he recognized he needed a break. So, at the height of their fame, the cast walked away. It was a rare decision in the entertainment industry and showed Rowan's commitment to protecting his mental health. In 1983, Rowan launched Blackadder with Richard Curtis. It had a huge budget, big sets, and large casts. The story imagined an alternate history where Richard III won the Battle of Bosworth. Rowan played the cunning Prince Edmund. Although the show was ambitious, it became extremely expensive to produce. Rain delays, castles, and costumes nearly destroyed the budget. The BBC almost cancelled it after season 1. Only an international Emmy saved it. When the show returned in 1986 with Blackadder 2, everything changed. The sets were smaller, the writing was sharper, and Ben Elton joined as a co-writer. Rowan took center stage with a more confident performance style. This new version of Blackadder was funnier, faster, and more clever. It became one of the greatest British sitcoms ever made. And in the years that followed, Rowan's career continued to grow until he created the character that would make him a global legend, Mr. Bean. Behind the laughter, Rowan always carried the memories of a lonely childhood, a painful stutter, and years of self-doubt. But he turned his struggle into something beautiful. The boy who once sat alone at school became the man who made millions of people smile without saying a word. Even now, decades later, Rowan Atkinson continues to inspire people by proving that pain can be transformed into greatness, and that even the quietest people can change the world. Miranda Richardson brought the character Queenie to life with her squeaky voice and hilarious personality, and audiences loved her from the moment she appeared on screen. The show also became famous for its unforgettable guest stars. One of the most memorable was Tom Baker, who played Redbeard Rum with such wild energy that people still talk about his performance today. As the seasons went on, Rowan Atkinson's character, Edmund, changed from being awkward to becoming sarcastic, clever, and sharply funny. Meanwhile, Baldrick, who used to be smart in the earlier version of the show, slowly turned into the lovable fool that fans adored for years. At first, some people were not happy about these changes. A critic even mocked Rowan by calling him the Wooly of the week. But time changed everything. As the audience got used to the new version, they realized it was even better than before. The characters had more depth, the jokes were sharper, and the chemistry between the actors felt perfect in every episode. The final season, titled Blackadder Goes Forth, aired in 1989 and surprised everyone by choosing a serious setting. The trenches of World War I, Rowan played Captain Blackadder, Hugh Laurie played Lieutenant George, and Tony Robinson returned as Private Baldrick. Even though the season remained funny, it also carried a powerful emotional weight. It showed the fear, confusion, and hopelessness of war without losing its sense of humor. People were nervous when they heard the show would make jokes about such a tragic historical event. Many feared it would be disrespectful, but the opposite happened. The season became one of the most respected pieces of television ever made. It won Best Comedy Series at the 1990 BAFTAs, and Rowan won Best Light Entertainment Performance. In 2000, the British Film Institute ranked it as the 16th greatest British show of all time. Then in 2004, over 282,000 people voted in a BBC poll, placing it as the second greatest sitcom in the entire history of British television. The final scene, where the soldiers charge across no man's land in slow motion, became one of the most emotional endings ever shown on TV. It moved millions of viewers to tears and is still remembered as a moment of pure artistic bravery. Behind the scenes, the cast behaved more like a family than a group of co-workers. Rowan, Hugh Laurie, and Stephen Fry often improvised lines together because they trusted each other completely. Rowan even said that Blackadder was the least stressful project of his entire career because he didn't feel like he had to carry all the pressure alone. Everyone shared the responsibility, and that teamwork created magic. Some of the funniest lines in the series were never written in the script, but were simply improvised on the spot. Rowan later admitted that what they had in the 1980s could never be created again because the chemistry of that time was something special. Then came the role that changed the world, Mr. Bean. The first episode aired on January 1st, 1990, and over 13 million people tuned in. Rowan had invented the character years earlier while studying at Oxford. Mr. Bean hardly spoke at all, and that made him perfect for global audiences. There were no language barriers. Anyone from any country could watch him and laugh. The show eventually reached 245 countries. One episode, The Trouble with Mr. Bean, was watched by over 18 million people. It soon became one of the most popular comedy characters ever created. The simple, physical humor connected with people everywhere. But behind all the laughter, Rowan was struggling. He later admitted that he never really enjoyed playing Mr. Bean. It stressed him out and left him emotionally drained. Because the character spoke so little, Rowan had to express everything through facial expressions and body movements, which took a surprising toll on him. What looked simple to the audience was extremely difficult for him to perform. He often said that he looked forward to finishing each episode so he could finally relax. In 1997, Mr. Bean stepped onto the big screen. The film being made more than $251 million worldwide. It broke records in the UK and Germany and became the fastest British movie to reach $100 million even before it opened in the United States. But instead of feeling proud, Rowan felt exhausted. The more successful Mr. Bean became, the more pressure he felt. People wanted more movies, more episodes, more performances, and he felt trapped inside the character who brought him fame but also drained his energy. Finally, in 2002, Rowan found a solution. He launched the animated Mr. Bean series. This version allowed him to keep the character alive while removing the physical burden from his own body. He only had to do the voice. The show ran for 52 episodes and became popular with children. It moved to CITV and introduced new characters while still keeping the spirit of the original series. The animated version continued for years, with new episodes still being produced even in 2024. Then in 2012, Rowan briefly returned to performing Mr. Bean in person for the London Olympics. He appeared in a comedy sketch during the Chariots of Fire performance. Nearly 27 million people in the UK watched it, and over 900 million worldwide. It became one of the most tweeted moments of the night. But the performance left Rowan physically drained for weeks. Many fans now see that moment as the last time he fully embodied Mr. Bean in live form. Even outside of Mr. Bean and Blackadder, Rowan continued surprising audiences. In 1994, he played a novice priest in 4 weddings and a funeral. The film cost only $3 million to make but earned more than $245 million. His scene where he fumbles the wedding vows became one of the funniest moments in the movie and helped inspire the creation of his next major character. In 2003, he starred in Johnny English, a parody of spy films. It made over $160 million and was based on his old Barclaycard advertisement character. The success of the film led to 2 sequels, Johnny English Reborn in 2011 and Johnny English Strikes Again in 2018. The movies used Rowan's real-life engineering background to create clever scenes about technology and cybercrime. Not every project was a success. In 2005, he starred in Keeping Mum, a dark comedy that didn't appeal to critics or audiences. The disappointment led him to take a long break from films before returning with renewed energy in Johnny English Reborn. Rowan's personal life also had dramatic moments. In the late 1980s, he met Sinatra Sastry while she was working as a makeup artist on Blackadder. Rowan switched makeup artists just so he could talk to her. They fell in love and married on February 5, 1990, with Stephen Fry as his best man. They had 2 children, Lily in 1993 and Benjamin in 1995. For 24 years, their marriage seemed strong. But in 2014, they separated, and the divorce became final in 2015. Sinatra said Rowan had behaved unreasonably. Around that time, Rowan had started a relationship with a much younger woman, actress Louise Ford. The age difference and the timing of the relationship made headlines everywhere, and Sinatra was heartbroken. In March 2001, Rowan faced a terrifying moment when he was flying with his family in Kenya. Their pilot fainted midair. Rowan had never flown a plane before, but he grabbed the controls and kept the aircraft level until the pilot recovered and landed safely. That moment showed the world a very different side of him, a calm and brave man capable of saving lives. Rowan also shocked people in 2012 when he gave a speech in Parliament defending freedom of speech. He argued that too many things were being labeled as offensive and that people should have the right to express their thoughts freely. The speech went viral, but it also sparked controversy, with some groups accusing him of protecting harmful speech. Still, his point made an impact, and the law was eventually changed. In 2013, he began a relationship with Louise Ford, his co-star from a stage play. She left her boyfriend, comedian James Acosta, and the news caused a scandal because Rowan was 58 and Louise was 31. But Rowan kept silent and refused to explain anything. In 2017, the couple welcomed their daughter, Isla, and Rowan became a father again at age 62. Another unexpected controversy happened in 2023 when Rowan wrote an article criticizing electric vehicles. Even though he had supported them since the 1980s, he said he felt misled by the industry and argued that EVs produced more emissions during manufacturing than people realized. Scientists pushed back, saying he misunderstood the data. Critics also said he wasn't the right person to speak on environmental issues since he owned a large collection of high-emission luxury cars. His article even influenced Parliament and may have slowed EV sales. Throughout his career, Rowan has taken roles he didn't always enjoy. When Disney offered him the role of Zazu in The Lion King, he initially didn't want to do it because he disliked voice acting. But he agreed, and the film became one of Disney's biggest hits, earning over $968 million. His performance became iconic, but he didn't return for the 2019 remake, causing some disappointment among fans. Rowan has often spoken about how tiring his work can be. He once admitted that filming Mr. Bean was extremely stressful and that playing a childish character in his 50s felt uncomfortable. He talked many times about retiring the character, but also changed his mind repeatedly. In 2022, he returned to physical comedy with Man vs. Bee. But filming the show reminded him how hard physical work had become for him at age 67. On January 6, 2025, Rowan turned 70. Fans around the world celebrated his birthday and shared memories of how much his work meant to them. People also wondered whether he would finally retire, knowing how exhausting physical comedy had become for him. Yet even as time passes, his influence only grows. By September 2025, the official Mr. Bean YouTube channel had over 12 billion views and 35 million subscribers, attracting millions of viewers every day. Comedy schools now teach something called the Atkinson method, inspired by his style. Some people even call him the modern-day Charlie Chaplin. In 2024, a long-debated fan theory finally became official. The animated series confirmed that Mr. Bean is actually an alien. This idea had existed for years, especially since the original series opened with Mr. Bean falling from the sky. Fans were delighted to learn that the strange, silent character truly wasn't from Earth. Despite all his accomplishments, Rowan often says he doesn't feel successful. He doubts himself constantly. But millions of people across the world disagree. To them, he isn't just a comedian. He is a legend, a global icon, and a man whose work has made generations laugh. And no matter how much he questions himself, his legacy continues to grow with every passing year.